All right, I want to get back to trade for a second and the effect on one industry in particular that we've been talking about. Wisconsin is where this industry is really based here. The state lost almost 700 dairy farms in 2018 as cheese exports to China fell by almost 65%. Joining us now on the phone, Wisconsin dairy farmer Chris Pollack. Chris, if anything, this was just sort of an insult to injury situation, the latest trade back and forth, because the Wisconsin dairy industry was already facing a lot of troubles. Talk to us about the effect of trade in particular, and then we'll get into some of those other issues.
Sure. Like I said, as you pointed out, the Wisconsin dairy industry has been struggling for about the last 4 years, and it looks like we're going to go into our fifth year of low milk prices. And trade, like you said, has just been salt in the wound of an industry that's already struggling to try to make ends meet. So obviously the challenges that we've had in the last year with trying to get some sort of trade deal taken care of with China, as well as some of our neighbors here in Canada and Mexico, to help open up those markets to our products has been very concerning for a lot of dairy farmers, because that is a large part of our market.
Well, Chris, there are a couple things that are going on here. First, there's been a decline in U.S. consumption of milk that I think we peaked in the 1970s, but we eat less dairy product and less milk today than we did then. That's a big part of this, isn't it?
The milk consumption part of it is certainly a concern in the domestic market. Cheese and yogurt and so on has actually grown over that time span. But certainly we would like to see some increase in that fluid market again. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with just changes of lifestyle. And I know growing up myself, there was a lot of cereal in the morning with some milk in there. And I think you see less of that now than we used to.
Chris, do you think we're looking at a potential dairy shortage, a milk shortage, or cheese shortage this year, given the pressure on the farming community?
I don't. That's something that I would say is not a concern at this point, because we have such a surplus in government supplies. Some of the last numbers I've seen, the cheese supply in stocks is the largest it's ever been. And part of that can be attributed to just a world oversupply of milk right now that is really kind of keeping a thumb on any sort of upward movement in prices.
Now, when we talk about the drop in the number of farms in Wisconsin as well, you're also talking about the industrialization, the continued industrialization of farming, right? In other words, more sort of consolidation, more big businesses owning more heads of dairy cattle. What are the dynamics like there?
Well, there's still, Wisconsin has always had a lot of smaller dairy farms. And a lot of those are feeling the brunt of this trade war and the price challenges more so than some of the large farms. However, as this time period of low prices is carried on, we're starting to see large farms that are beginning to struggle a lot more. And some of those larger farms are going to start to liquidate here going into the spring. As many farmers start to look to get loans to buy seed and fertilizer and so on to put crops in the ground, if they can't secure that credit line from their banks to put those crops in the ground, they aren't going to have the feed to feed their cattle, and ultimately that's going to end the farm for some of those dairy farmers.
All right, Chris, thank you for giving us some detail here on the backdrop in Wisconsin. Good luck to you. Wisconsin dairy farmer Chris Pollack.